Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Bellingham City Council's committee meeting minutes. This afternoon, we have several committees, the first of which is Parks and Recreation. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Skip Williams.
Thank you, President Lilliquist. We have one point on our agenda today, which should not take very long, and it is Agenda Bill 23683. And what it is the bid award to the Colicurcio Brothers LLC for the Cordata Park Development Phase 2. So this project involves the construction of Phase 2 park facilities, which includes a park pavilion with overhead trellis and seat walls, covered outdoor stages, or stage, just one, skate, dock, covered double swings, pedestrian circulation, utility services and distribution, pickleball and basketball courts, park shelter, park lighting, park furnishings, and signage, landscape planning, turf lawn, wetland mitigation planting, lighted parking area, and a driveway. That's a long list. The city received 6 bids that were publicly opened on March 24th, 2023. The lowest bid was submitted by Colicurcio Brothers LLC of Blaine, Washington, in the amount of $3,735,228.03. Staff recommends that the council award this bid, and at this point, I will also indicate that our previous council action was to approve the Cordata Park Master Plan and the budget. So, with that all being said, I will turn it over to Nicole Oliver and Jonathan Schick, who will give us a brief outline of the project.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. I'm going to turn it right over to our landscape architect and project manager of both the master plan, Phase 1, and now Phase 2 of Cordata Park, which is, we're all very excited about Phase 2 to get under construction this year.
Holy cow, Councilman, you said it all. I don't even know why I'm here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks to all. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Jonathan. I'm managing the Parks project, the Cordata Park Phase 2. And as Nicole mentioned, I've been on board on this since the master plan. We're requesting the City Council approve the bid submitted by Colicurcio Brothers LLC, which includes the base bid and the additive bid schedules. The park is located in the north end of Bellingham in the Cordata neighborhood, along the east side of Cordata Parkway. East side of Cordata Parkway between Horton Road to the north and Stewart Road to the south. And you can see the park boundary in black dashed line. As a quick review of what was in Phase 1, everything you see in the yellow line is in Phase 1. And that would include the network of trails and the sculptures and wetland mitigation areas that you can sort of see dotted throughout the site. The focus of this project is mainly in the south end of the park, this project being Phase 2. And the objective is to broaden the range of recreational opportunities and to provide opportunities for all park users and extend trails to the south, like here, and to the north, over here, while assiduously avoiding impacts to wetlands. Phase 2 site work includes all of the things the councilman mentioned and shown up here. The improvements include a reservable shelter with outdoor trellis, covered stage. You can see my cursor there. Little skate dot, the parking area, park driveway, sport court area, little shelter, park lighting along this edge. But let's zoom in a little bit more, see what the facilities are. So the other site work includes the improved trail and emergency access to the Crescent development to the south here. You can sort of see where this emergency vehicle access is going to connect along the south property line, and also potentially another connection to the adjacent property to the south when it is finally developed. And so we have a little crossing situation in this situation, so that there's better connection and cross flow from north to south. As I mentioned before, landscape planting and wetland planting and stormwater facilities such as like here and some other outfalls located around here are included in this project. So let's take a closer look at what's in the red box there. This is the Park Pavilion area. So some of these things are numbered for easy reference. You know, for example, the skate dot is located somewhat close to the Park Pavilion because it's a complementary use, and it's mainly intended for young skaters and beginners, and it's typical of what we've been putting into our parks over the last 10, 15 years. Number 6 is the Park Pavilion. It's 2,000 square feet. It overlooks the wetlands to the southeast. It has an adjacent patio area and overhead trellis with a seat wall that surrounds it like this. And both uses complement each other. So when you're renting the meeting space in here, you'll be free to use the outdoors. So it sort of blurs the boundary between indoor and outdoor in a way. There's a 600 square foot covered stage, and you can see this oblique of what this covering might look like. It's a fabric covering with poles. It'll stay up most of the time during the good weather, and eventually it would be taken down when the weather turns bad, usually during the late fall, winter, and early spring. And then there's the covered swing. Covered swing would be located in this node, surrounded by various other kinds of facilities like bike racks, signage, and it's just a great place to hang out. All you want to do is look at the view. But going back to this covered stage, I really did mean to mention that this grass area surrounding the amphitheater will slope slightly downward towards the stage to create a kind of a amphitheater. Not as pronounced as some of the ones that you've seen of the Greek classical amphitheaters. The meeting room occupancy in the Park Pavilion is 78 people. There will be 3 unisex restrooms. 2 of them are accessed from the outside. You can see these 2 doors. Those are the restrooms. And also 1 restroom accessed from inside the building. And there you can see the trellis work and the ample views to the wetland. Again, here is interior view of the meeting space. The Park Pavilion also includes a mechanical space and kitchen and pipe chase. And kitchen. I think I saw kitchen. Yeah, the kitchen will have stove, microwave, and fridge. So the red box, this is a sport court area. It's about 400 feet to the east. North is to the right, by the way. So in this area, there's a 380 square foot steel framed picnic shelter. It's non-reservable, so it's on a first come, first served basis. It's made of durable materials, standing seam steel roof. There's 4 pickleball courts. One of the 3, one of the 4 would be wheelchair accessible, so you can see the additional space there for additional ball bounce, so you can get to it quickly enough. And then there is the basketball courts, high school sized, and also striped for 3 additional pickleball courts. So along with all of this are park furnishings, benches, trash cans, picnic tables. There's wetland mitigation plantings along here and here, and landscape planting. Other Phase 2 improvements include extending a trail to the Bear Creek Bridge crossing that we saw before, and parking area, landscape planting, and as I said, the mitigation planting. So upon bid approval, we will jump straight into contracting with Colacurcio Brothers. And once the contract is executed and the soil is workable, we're going to start construction perhaps as early as second week of May. So that's about all. Thanks for your time and attention. These improvements are important to the Cordata neighborhood. So happy to take questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do any of the committee members have any questions? Councilperson Huffman.
Thank you for the presentation. I was interested to find out, there's quite a bit of space between Phase 1 and Phase 2, quite a bit of physical space. Why aren't the two phases closer to each other?
That's a really good question. I'd say about 87% of this site is covered or encumbered with wetlands and wetland buffers. And so when you see my cursor there, this is the biggest wetland right there. It's wetland A, and there's at least a dozen more wetlands on site. And so during the park master planning phases, we employed mitigation sequencing, which means the first thing you do is avoid impacts to wetlands wherever you can. So that is why all of this is clustered here, is because that's where the greatest cluster of unencumbered land was. And similarly, this Phase 2 area is also where the site was less encumbered. And just interestingly enough, you know, the alignment of these trails actually skips from one unencumbered sliver to the next. So we're actually bridging from one unencumbered area to the next. So that's how we sought to minimize impacts to wetlands and buffers.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Looking at the building, not the pavilion, but the indoor space that can basically accommodate 70 people, the meeting space, I'm always looking at multi-purposes of any of our new buildings that we're building, and I'm wondering if you had looked or eyed the possibility of us being able to use that as a winter inclement weather shelter, or even like hazardous air, like when we're looking at some of the climate changes, because I noticed that the indoor bathroom did not have a shower. And I volunteered over winter on an evening for the inclement weather shelter. And the facility that we're using currently just didn't suffice enough. One, it wasn't designed for that, and it was pretty packed, kind of a bit over capacity. So I'm just thinking in the next 5 years, if we don't have something specifically built for that, I'm thinking this building may end up getting utilized, or maybe another city facility. And I'm just thinking that as we're designing things, we should kind of keep an eye towards that possibility of using it for a secondary service. And I'm wondering if you had thought about that during the design of this, and then whether or not we could have a consideration of putting a shower on that interior bathroom in order to be able to make that even a further possibility. And I know it's out there on the north side of the city, but for the inclement weather shelter that was over at Civic Field, we did bus people there. So I would see busing being an important element regardless of where we site something.
Thanks for that question, Councilmember Anderson. We did not consider putting a shower in this facility. But we are thinking about our larger facilities, such as the re-roof and the HVAC system that we're doing at the Blodell Community Room, as a place that could have alternate uses. And then, frankly, the Sportsplex, we're also doing a HVAC, a full-on energy upgrade and HVAC system there, and those are much bigger facilities. This is going to be a rentable space for the community on the north side, which they don't have any right now. But and it could be a respite during some sort of sheltering. But there's really not space for a shower, and having a shower can be problematic for other reasons as well. So we don't have a shower in this particular building, and there's no plan for that.
Aside from this, it would be, in the future, be nice to hear about some of these upcoming projects, especially with climate change, how we're looking at some of our buildings. I know in some ways it falls to parks. If it's possible, it falls to any other buildings, that would be great. But I would like to hear more about how some of these fitting of the buildings so that we can use them for multi-purpose. The HVAC, especially when the smoke comes, the heat, and then also the winter. But I did have one more question, and you're probably going to hate me asking this, but pickleball. There's been, community members in the past that have emailed us about there was a potential donor for covered courts. And I know this wasn't the site, maybe because of size. And I'm just wondering, was there further work on that? Was there the possibility of considering the donation for covered courts?
We did speak to that potential donor about covering these courts, and it was not enough courts for what he's interested in doing. And we continue to pursue a pickleball pavilion.
Thank you. I assumed it wasn't big enough, but I was hoping something was better than nothing. And I know that you were open to the possibility, but I kind of wanted to make sure that was verbally stated, because we will get some emails here shortly when people see pickleballs and no cover.
Are there any questions from other council members in attendance? Council Member Stone.
Thank you very much. First, I just wanted to express appreciation for the presentation you gave to the Cordata neighborhood as well at the last meeting. The community was very excited hearing about the new plans and the expansion in Phase 2. I didn't hear it addressed today, but one of the concerns or interests, I guess I heard from community members that night in particular, sort of dovetails on what Councilmember Huffman was acknowledging about the space between sort of the two locations and along those trails. The desire to have trees or some sort of canopy to have respite from the heat and the sun, particularly, senior members of our community really expressing that desire. If there were benches or places to, rest along that way, would there be any shade provided through trees or other means?
Yes. It's on my desk, and the intent is to write a change order eventually with Colacurcio. They'll have a subcontractor, a landscape subcontractor, and by then I should have a nice list of plants. And Nicole will have reviewed it by then, and she would have either said yes or no or somewhere in between, and then include that in Phase 2. So the intent is to try to maintain the open feel. It's a really unusual aspect of this park, and not to shrub it up, but to give respite and perhaps even to give rooms. You proceed from the light to the dark, to the light to the dark as you walk the trails, and just be really careful about the views outside the park and the openness. Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Anderson, you have another question?
No, just excited this is coming forward. I know the community is really anticipating the second phase being completed. So with that, I move approval.
It's been moved and doesn't need a second. It's been moved to recommend approval. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, and it will be recommended at this evening's meeting. Well, thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And we have no further business on this committee's agenda, so I will declare the meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Skip. I will now take a brief break while we reset for the next meeting, which will be Public Health, Safety, and Justice Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dan Hamel, and we'll let you know when we're ready to begin that meeting.